Hey guys, this is John again. So we had a user, Mr. Jason Castle, ask about how to make the half hopper speed stair design. So I'm guessing he means this design right here, where you can, put the two double chests side by side, which, that's how it would look, but just for, the sake of not having to put in 2,000 different items here. I just went with a single chest. Um, but this is kind of how it looks. You kind of have to, like worm in the hoppers at the bottom. They kind of have to snake around to be able to get where they need to go. But this is, I don't know why I didn't think to include this in the tutorial. I probably should have, just because this is like one of the most compact designs as far as storage goes. But I'll just grab some junk here and we can just, run a few items through and, test it out. So a lot of this stuff, it all depends on how much you're willing to spend on material to be able to make one of these. Because a lot of this stuff, being the stairway design, if you, if you wanted to kind of conserve on material, this would actually be a lot cheaper because, uh, you could end up, if you wanted to, just, know where your items are located, but you don't really want to put them all in the sorter individually. Then just say in this column, like if I had all cobblestone and stone and everything, whatever here, then I could just use this input and not even need a dropper elevator. Or if I had, certain things in here, or, vegetation and wood and all that, then I could just come here to, input the wood items whenever I want something to be sorted, and just let the sorter deal with, the finer details of putting them in the places and all that, But if you really want it to be just a single input, like a dropper elevator, then you're going to kind of get blown away by the amount of hoppers that you're going to need, because it does take quite a bit quite a bit on the hoppers here. But basically, I'm just using some of the simple dropper elevators. They seem to work. I already ran, a few hundred items through this, and I haven't heard any noise. And of course, the redstone lamps aren't necessary. But I'll go ahead and just give a little walkthrough of how you build something like this. And keep in mind, the taller you make it, the more efficient it's going to be when it comes to material, And the reason why is because if I just made this one tier taller to where this is, 3 high, right? If I made this one taller to where I had another chest here, then yeah, I'd have to, push the dropper elevator back one. I'd have to add another hopper here, add another hopper at the bottom. That's going to cost me, 2 extra hoppers for the sorter. But in return, I get, 2 more double chests full of items here, you know. So it's more efficient on material, I guess efficient on material if you make it taller, even though it'll be a little bit wider, or deeper. But anyway, so I'll give you a little idea of how to make something like this. The way that I make things in survival, I don't really plan things out. I'm not the type that's going to give you a giant materials list to make something, because I kind of just put stuff together and then, like a system in this, because I've made, a few things like this in survival before, and I'll make like one tier and then run out of hoppers, and I'll be like, okay, so whenever I get more iron, then I'll, make a whole nother column, something like that, because you can kind of add these piecemeal, everything is kind of independent. So as far as like materials go, you're going to kind of have to judge that on your own, and, like with hoppers in the back, I can kind of just tell you how, where they need to go, but, you can kind of worm them through and figure it out. So anyway, wherever your floor is going to be, you're going to have to, plan out according to that. So let's just say that if I wanted my first, like double chest to be here, right? So then I'd need to put a dropper there, and we're going to have to come down into the ground with a hopper line, right? So I'll just go ahead and dig out a little bit. Now the hopper lines are going to kind of, worm their way around, so alright, so that's going to be going to the dropper elevator, which is going to come into this second column. So the tough part isn't when you just make like one column or two columns, or like two sections. It gets tougher with the more that you add. Because you kind of like you can see that I have all these kind of different. Like this one I have pushed over one because I'm using the 2 wide dropper elevator. And then on this one, I pushed that one over, but then on this one, I kind of went on the other direction. So, guess I'm not that great at the planning. But anyway, so we're going to need 2 hopper lines to go back. And the length of the hopper lines really depends on how tall you make the section here, But again, like if you decided not to use the dropper elevators, if you wanted to make it cheaper, then you wouldn't even need the hopper lines going in the back, right? Because you could just come out to the front to, an overflow chest, So you could run items through, and then if they don't belong in this column, then you could just pull them out of the overflow chest and then, put them in the next one. I mean, be more work, but be a lot cheaper in hoppers. Anyway, so we're just going to put down our normal dropper sorter section here. So blocks above the repeaters, next to the droppers. And keep in mind, whenever you're making something like this, if you have the option to be able to look for a chunk border, I would not build this on a chunk border. Now, personally, I have never seen any dropper sorter break like one of these dropper sorters. The only thing that I have seen break or give me trouble was on one of the other item sorters where it used something like a dropper-vator or dropper sorter, something like a dropper sorter that that broke and would actually pull the hopper would actually pull the item out before the dropper could fire. But that I will just say is probably because of a chunk border. In this case, I've never seen one of these break. Like an item has never gone into the output, into the, the overflow that was supposed to be in a chest, So anyway, that's a 3 wide, or a 3 tall, right? So you can just put some chests down. So that'll give us 6 on the output. And to cap the top off, so if you watch my last video, right, then I said, do something like this, right, to lock the hopper at the top. Well, you can't do that when you have two next to each other, because it does that. So you're not actually powering the block going to the hopper. But to conserve on space back here, one of the other options that you could do, if you felt so inclined, was to either come off this block or come off that block with a repeater, or a repeater there. But to conserve space and to not have to cost any more in hoppers, all I did was you take two dust back here, and next to the hoppers at the top, put blocks just like that. Okay, and then we could say, like, if this is going to be like one input and that's going to be a second input, because you're going to need the two inputs divided. So from the dust like that, just put repeaters on the side, and that'll help you conserve space. And this repeater, the comparator below this, will still power the line and power the repeater to lock the hopper. And that's what I have on all of these up here. And these are fine as long as in my the other way to make one of these, like with the individual repeater coming out on its own and all that, those are fine to handle non-stackable items. But these, if you were to put non-stackable items in here, like what do we have? Like an axe, whatever. Anyway, I don't really have to show you, but a non-stackable item gives a signal strength of 3, right? So that would power not only this redstone, but also that redstone. So if you had multiple items, like if I had items trying to sort down here, and then I had something non-stackable come down here, then that would cause that side to break. So you're going to have to keep all the non-stackable items out. However, things like ender pearls and snowballs and anything that stacks to 16 is still fine. You can put those in here, and they're fine. They don't do anything. So that's pretty much how you build one. So if you wanted to build a second one, you're going to need to skip a block. So we can say that this is going to be our hopper lines here. Right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Because that's going to be our block with the repeater and all that. Yeah. So it's pretty much just, trying to figure out, because you don't need to have like 500 hoppers to get this planned out. You could put down blocks and, say like if that's a hopper pointing in this direction, that's a hopper pointing in that direction. But it's not that big of a deal. I'll show you once we get done with this little part. There. Stop it. Alrighty. But I mean, if you only wanted to make just a few of these, then that's even better. The fewer that you can make width-wise, the better it's going to be, because it's going back to the dropper elevators that actually cost you so much of material, because if I would have gone up a few more, like in these two sections, then I wouldn't have even have needed, you know, this entire section, right? Because that's just 6. I could have gone up a few more here, you know, and you know, made up for it. But you know, if I could have avoided all that entire sorter, then that would have saved me a lot in material. But I mean, it's all up to the user, however tall you want to make it, how wide you feel like making it, you know. Alright, so but these are pretty simple. I mean, it's just repetition. Wrong place. Go. Okay, and our inputs. So we need our 2 hoppers. We can put blocks on the side. And repeaters, and then 2 dust. Okay, and then separate your input chests. Okay. So if you want to have a dropper elevator for your input, so to make a dropper elevator at ground level, you're going to need a hopper coming into the top. Otherwise, if you don't want one at the ground level, then you can just you know, use the input of the top column here, you know, and the items will still go down. They'll go up, you know, the next dropper elevator, and then, you know, work their way all the way down until they get to the proper location. But if you want to make a dropper elevator, you're going to have to, both of your droppers, you're going to want to be in the middle, okay? Because if we were to make them going over that block there, that block is going to sometimes be powered. So it doesn't really hurt it, but it may, you know, slow the items down. Some of the items may get stuck in the hopper, and, you know, so just to make it as fast as possible, you can just do that. And I will probably just push that one out and come over like that, which I don't think I will need those. Alright, so what I'm going to do is say that we're going to have a dropper, dropper elevator here, and we could say that we're going to have a dropper elevator here. Alright, so this hopper line, this first hopper line, is going to have to come into this dropper elevator. And this one is going to have to be moved. So I will just put that one back a little bit, and let's just go ahead and put down a dropper. Now comes the fun part. So dropper and hopper, and may as well just go ahead and put this one into. This one does not need to be that low, but I guess I have to make it that low because I'm using the 2 wide dropper elevators. Alright, so that should be good enough for now. So just make the hoppers go like that. Alright, so next one we're going to need hoppers there and hoppers there. Now, if you're not going to be making another column, then I'm just going to go ahead and make this the overflow. So all I'm going to do is just put down a chest, and I'll get rid of those in a second. Okay. Alright, so that'll be the overflow in case anything, can't be sorted or, something bugs out. You will probably, if you leave the area while the game is still running, or while the sorter is running, you probably will see things go into the overflow, because anything related to droppers just kind of freezes up and breaks whenever, you unload a chunk. Alright, so what I'm probably going to do is just copy the first one there and have our dropper elevator here. Alright. And then we can run this hopper back to over here. Yeah. Okay. And then finally, let's see. Just go over by 1 because we're using the 2 wide dropper elevators. Yeah. And okay, so to make these dropper elevators, I'll just dig all this out, clean this up a little bit. Alright, so you're going to need repeaters going to a block below the droppers. So on all of the lower ones here, we're going to have a block with a repeater going into it. Okay, and we don't need that. And behind that block, so behind the repeater, just go ahead and take out a couple blocks. Okay, and we will need dust there. So dust, dust, dust. Alright, so next you can just cover all that up. So cover up the repeater and the dust, and a comparator goes there. Right. So comparator, and then blocks to cover that. So this is a really simple form of dropper elevator. It does not use a 1-tick generator, so it has potential to make noise, but from what I found, observers will only give a 1-tick pulse with a signal of 2 ticks. So here we have an observer, and if we give it a signal of redstone at 2 ticks, because normally you try to you try to make sure that you only send a signal of 1 tick going to an observer. Oh, well. I wish things weren't so buggy, you know? So we're getting a signal of, see, if you look at the output, right? So it's a double flash, it's a single flash, double flash, double flash, single flash. I, I swear, this game. But anyway, I mean, they seem to work. They seem to be fine, so without making noise. So anyway, um, so dust behind the comparator, or coming off the comparator, and we're going to put a block between those two because we need a repeater, single repeater coming down and touching both comparators, you know, with dust, like that. Okay. So after that, you need a block here, and you can just go ahead and clean out a few blocks. So we're going to put a repeater coming off behind that, and then a block in front of the repeater. Alright, and next just put a block above the repeater and bring that back. Not that far. Yeah. Alright, so we're going to be putting a torch coming off of that block and dust all along the top of this. Not there. Silly. Alright, and time for our buggy observers. Make sure they're all going in the right direction. Alright, so above the torch, you can put down an observer, and then we're going to alternate between torches and observers. And really you can use all observers, but this helps to save on material cost. Okay, so that is all set up. So all we need to do is put our hopper line down into the bottom, and I'm actually just going to put a chest here to save them on material, right? So that'll cost us 2 less in, you know, hoppers just to do that. So if I go ahead and put in some material, then we can just check it out. So dropper elevator is working, and the items are coming into the top. Oh. I was hoping to be able to test it out, but you can't really test out too much, but we can send some into here, and let's see, we could put a little bit in each dropper elevator. Again with the clear hotbar button. So that is that one, and that one. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that they were all running. Yep, I mean, they seem to be quiet, so whatever issues, I had before, you know, I don't know. Sometimes they're buggy, sometimes they're not. So anyway, that's pretty much how you make one of these. Remember, it's cheaper to just build higher than it is to, you know, build a whole nother section. But anyway, if anybody else needs anything, or if anybody else has any trouble, feel free to let me know, and that should take care of it. So thank you for watching.